Okay, before I get this episode started, I'm just gonna say one thing. Derpy, 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 derpy. Alright, now that I've got it out of the way, let's get it started. So this episode is entitled Rainbow Falls, and in my opinion, it's a good episode. Not a perfect episode though, there is one thing that bugs me over everything else. Alright, so let's start off with the good news. This episode is a really good episode. I A, love its moral, and B, I loved that Rainbow really got some character development, even if it was sort of a rehash of Wonderbolt's Academy in certain aspects. And I'm going to touch on that later. However, I do want to touch on the fact that we get to see the second key of harmony, and yes, now we can confirm that Rainbow powers have something to do with this. And I imagine everyone's come to the same conclusion that the keys of harmony aren't necessarily keys at this point. Rainbow's is actually a Wonderbolt's pin. And I think that's a really cool idea. I wasn't expecting that. I was actually expecting literal keys to be the plot of this entire season. And to see it not be that is really surprising, and I dig that. However, there are a few things I do not like about this episode. For starters, why is Ponyville even trying in the Equestrian Games? Maybe it's a regulation of some kind since it is the Equestrian Games, not the try whoever wants to games. So maybe it's required for every town to try out at least. And if they don't qualify, then they don't go on to the Equestrian Games. However, Ponyville's choices in flyers, I really have to wonder what they were thinking because they don't make sense. For starters, Bulk Biceps is not meant to be flying. They should have put him into a different category if they were going to put him in at all, because his wings are tiny, first off. Second off, he can't fly very well. I mean, granted, he went to Wonderbolt's Academy, which was a mind-blowing experience in itself, but to see him try out for the Equestrian Games really, in my opinion, doesn't make sense. To me, at least. Now, and then there's Fluttershy. Now, Fluttershy is also not the best flyer. I was going to say not a good flyer, but she's not the best flyer. Now, she did actually come through in Hurricane Fluttershy when lifting water up to clouds, though. Maybe that's why Ponyville was like, hey, this pony right here, she's got some determination. You know, the crowd was cheering her name, so let's put her on the team. I guess that's where they're coming from, and I can kind of see where they're coming from with Bulk Biceps, which again, you know, he was in the Wonderbolt's Academy, so hey, he must be a really talented flyer. I don't see how that's possible, but okay. But I still think that they could have chose some different flyers. Now, we actually see Flitter and Cloud Chaser in this, and I was under the impression they were Ponyville Pegasi, so I don't know why they're in the Equestrian Games Area 2 training, which makes no sense to me. But, like, why wouldn't they choose them? Maybe they're better flyers, you know? And it felt like Rainbow Dash was kind of just carrying the team just to do it. Twilight made a remark saying that, you know, well, you may not have got the best team, but you know what? You got a good team. I'm paraphrasing there, that's not what she actually said. So to me, it just doesn't make sense as to why Ponyville would suggest Rainbow Dash be with a team that obviously may not even qualify. And that was the basic goal. I feel like they knew they weren't going to compete in the Equestrian Games, not competitively at all. I think they knew that from the start. Their goal was just to qualify. And maybe that gives Ponyville some sort of perk in Equestria. I'm not entirely sure. But overall, I think that everyone knew they weren't going to get into the Equestrian Games. They were just like, we're just going to qualify, you know, that's our goal. And while that's a good goal, I still just, part of me is confused as to why they would choose that team. Now, another thing that I've seen be mentioned in reviews of this episode is, hey, Twilight, you're an alicorn, you got wings, why don't you do something about this, huh? Stop lecturing Rainbow Dash about her flaws and whatnot, and you get your butt out there and do it yourself. Now, the problem with this I see is Twilight is kind of an alicorn princess. Now, I'm not entirely sure how that applies to anything because she can't get a cabin in Manhattan, but I imagine that they probably wouldn't want alicorns to compete because, well, Celestia and Luna would probably trounce everybody. Then again, in the comic books, Luna actually plays with Big Macintosh in a race and whatnot. And yes, she does trounce everybody. Now, whether that's, you know, every pony just like, oh, snap, Luna's here. Maybe we should, you know, tone it back. Let her win, because I don't want the moon crushed on me. Now, that's probably not what they thought, but My guess is alicorns are probably very strong creatures, and maybe that's why they won't let alicorns be on the teams of any area of Equestria, is because, you know, may be unfair. Don't know. That's just my guess and speculation on that. Now, the biggest problem I have with this episode has to be Spitfire's actions. And Fleetfoot's actions, for that matter. A. Spitfire, you're the captain of the Wonderbolts. Rein in your teammates. Spitfire was just going along with whatever Fleetfoot did. Like, it was okay. And granted, I understand wanting Rainbow Dash to do her best, and wanting Rainbow Dash to compete and go for the very best. I understand that, and I'm fine with that. What I'm not fine with, she's the captain of the Wonderbolts. Doesn't she need to represent her team and show that, hey, we're loyal to our teammates? Because they leave Soren hanging. When Soren breaks his wing, they don't even bother to show up into his hospital room as far as we know. That just, to me, is flabbergasting. To see that your team doesn't care about each teammate, they only want to win, makes no sense to me. I'm not a competitive guy, so I guess I just don't understand, but it just doesn't make sense. To me, this doesn't seem right, that Spitfire is just so okay with letting Fleetfoot kind of do her own thing and just be like, yeah, sure, come on, Rainbow Dash. You know, abandon your friends and stuff and come be with the cool kids, yeah. To an extent, she's kind of lost my respect, at least, a little bit. I held Spitfire in the highest regards. I thought, hey, you know what? She's captain of the Wonderbolts. You know, she's awesome. She's not a perfect leader, but she's still a good leader. And this has kind of dashed any expectations I have for her. Now, that's not to say they can't change, but I don't know. She shocked me in this one. I kind of thought she was higher than that. But overall, I feel like this episode was a good episode. I loved its moral. And I loved seeing Derpy. Derpy was a, like, out of left field, just boom, what the heck? I was not expecting this. And to see her, again, was really cool, and I liked it. But overall, I do feel like this episode is a good episode. I'd watch it gladly again. I just can't get over the fact that Spitfire and the Wonderbolts would sink so low, in my opinion, to just kind of yank a teammate from another team. I don't know, that doesn't sit well with me. But anyway, guys, I'm UltraMag64. Remember, stay brony, my ponies. Don't feed those Parasprites. And as always, happy gaming. I'll check you guys on the flip side. Bye!